DC Suicide Squad has a follow-up film called The Suicide Squad because it's a soft sequel kind of, and titles are now just meaningless. But who are the new characters in this movie and who will die? This is Exasperated Nerd Explains. James Gunn is behind the new film, and he certainly is okay with killing off characters in movies that are not based on having a bomb in your neck and being blackmailed into shenanigans upon threat of death. So I'm sure this one will have more casualties than DC's first entry, where it was painfully obvious from the beginning who was going to die just to set an example and establish the threat to the main characters. First off, you know her, you love her, you maybe saw her mediocre solo film / other team movie. Harley Quinn is definitely going to live through the movie, and you don't need any more information about her either. Joker's girlfriend has gone off on her own, now kind of a sort of anti-hero character. Odds she dies, 1,000,000 to 1. It's not going to happen. Captain Boomerang is also returning from the previous film, a Flash villain in the comics who joined the Suicide Squad and later died. Then his son took over his mantle, but then the original came back as a zombie, was fully resurrected, and took the mantle back when his son died. Even though he's not really in the trailer much, I still think he might survive and maybe get away or leave after the first battle. Still, I would not be surprised if he's an early death to try and show that yes, these characters are not safe. I'll put the odds he dies 25 to 1. Rick Flag is the last of the returning characters, and there have been 3 whole generations of Rick Flags in the comics, all of which are somehow involved with the Suicide Squad. I think he's a necessary character to connect back to the authority that is Amanda Waller. But he was also pretty personality free in the first film, so he really could just be killed off without anyone caring. That said, it'd be hard to imagine anyone else really being the rallying cry at the end, so I'd say odds of him dying are 40 to 1. Savant is a genius in the comics, but also has a chemical imbalance in his brain, making him experience time non-linearly, which can make him seem sort of forgetful. Starting out as a more murderous vigilante, he often worked with Oracle and the Birds of Prey team, with the group trying to reform him fully into the realm of hero. But in the DC New 52 reboot, he appeared in the Suicide Squad comics and betrayed the team under torture, disappearing afterwards. James Gunn has already killed Michael Rooker before, so I'm going to say the odds of death are pretty high at 5 to 1. Starting out as a Green Lantern villain, Javelin has seemingly died several times in the comics, including as a member of the Suicide Squad. He has different trick javelins like a less interesting Captain Boomerang, Mega Man villain, or Green Arrow. He is as close to a sure thing of being killed off as you can get, odds of death 2 to 1. Polka Dot Man was a Batman villain who started off doing harmless crimes in order to try and match wits with the great detective. His costume was a technological marvel, covered in dots of different colors and sizes that each had different and versatile uses. Hilariously, the different colors and sizes mean they aren't technically polka dots. More recent appearances have him being a police officer with a baseball bat, and subsequently suing for police brutality after he is severely beaten by the police as a result. His cherished story comes to its conclusion when a manhole cover falls on his head. Being an odd character and dead in the comics, I think he may just be quirky enough to survive, or at least be the last one to die, but I'll still put his odds at 8 to 1. Ratcatcher 2 has the ability to control and talk to rats. There's a Ratcatcher in the comics, and I'm guessing she's the daughter of the original, and just adds a 2 to her name to differentiate herself. Odd that she can do that, but this movie can't. She looks to be kind of a sympathetic character from the trailer, and based on that, I think there's a good chance she will survive. Her odds to die, 35 to 1. Bloodsport has a short-lived comic history and is most famous for trying to kill Superman with kryptonite bullets, which is alluded to in the trailer. He seems to be the new Deadshot and one of the 2 or 3 central characters for this film. He could sacrifice himself at the end, but I think there's a good chance he will survive. Odds he dies, 30 to 1. King Shark is a big shark man who is actually the son of a shark god in the DC universe. He's battled several heroes but tends to fight Aquaman, given he's pretty centered in the ocean. He's strong and eats people. He's shown up in the Harley Quinn animated show recently as a humorous character, appeared on the Flash TV show, and will be in an upcoming video game. He looks like a fun character, and I think he will survive. Odds of death, 22 to 1. Mongal is an alien and the daughter of Mongal of the War Planet. Powerful and deadly. I still think she probably dies. Odds of death 7-1. There are several thinkers in the DC universe, all of which are hyper-intelligent villains. And I think in this film he's actually going to be tied to the Starro villain and will assuredly die. Odds 3-1. Soria doesn't have an exact comic book equivalent and seems to be tied to the initial mission at the beginning of the movie. I assume she's barely in this and will survive, but then again, as a rather insignificant character, she could easily be cannon fodder. I'm leaning towards survive at 33-1 odds. Blackguard first appeared fighting Booster Gold and was a criminal with armor, gadgets, strength, and a sweet purple ponytail. They've sadly changed his hairdo and look a great deal, and no one really cares about the character. He died while a member of the Suicide Squad in the comics and will meet the same fate here. Odds of death 6-1. TDK doesn't have a direct correlation in the comics, as the name seems to stand for the Detachable Kid, but he's probably supposed to be the even more ridiculously named Arm Fall Off Boy, who could detach his limbs and use them as weapons, though he had some performance issues and they also tended to fall off on their own. He was a rejected membership from the Legion of Superheroes in the 30th century, and he will be shuffling off this mortal coil with the odds of death at 4-1. Weasel in the comics started out as a man dressed in a weasel costume with claws who was murdering people. Later appearances have him taking on the more animalistic features depicted in the film, which will be his only appearance as he won't weasel his way out of this one. Sorry about that, don't know what came over me. Odds of death 2-1. And finally we have the Peacemaker, a character who is already confirmed to get a spin-off series of his own on HBO Max. But will it be a prequel or a sequel? This character has had a few iterations, and oddly enough the costume and look are from the original appearance in the 60s by Charlton Comics, before the character was acquired by DC. He is in peak physical fitness and has trained in advanced military weapons, who is committed to peace and willing to use force to achieve it. This is the toughest one for me, but I still kind of think he dies, and the HBO Max series will be a prequel. But this is one I'm more torn on. Still, I'd say his odds of death are 6-1. And a bonus prediction, Starro, the giant creature they battle, and actually the first thing the Justice League fights in the comics. I predict they destroy the creature, but there will be a stinger at the end where a smaller version survives and may even be controlling a character we thought was dead. That where it shows Amanda Waller has captured it and going to study it and lock it away, Raiders of the Lost Ark style. And there you have it. Were any of my predictions a surprise? Will I do a follow-up video to brag about how well I did, or just shove this in the old memory hole and ignore it if I'm completely and utterly wrong? Only time will tell. Please like the video and let me know in the comments who you think will live and who will die. Share the video and subscribe to the channel for more content. Thanks for watching. Bye.